Hey everybody, how are you? I am finally getting started on my camera basics series. That's what we're talking about today. Specifically, how to operate your manual camera and get the most out of it. So let's get into it. So first things first, you have three settings you want to focus on: ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. ISO is essentially artificial light. When you take a photo on a digital camera, what's taking that photo is a sensor. And when you turn up your ISO, you are turning up the sensitivity to light that sensor has. When you turn it down, you're turning down the sensitivity to light. It's artificial light when you need more light. Shutter speed. The shutter is something that opens and closes. What it does is it exposes the sensor to the camera. When you are changing your shutter speed, you are changing the speed at which that shutter is opening and closing. If your shutter speed is at 1/2, that shutter is going to be open for half a second. That's bringing in a whole lot of light, and whatever motion happens in your field of view when that shutter is open will be captured in that photo as well. And that's something that you really have to consider with shutter speed. If it's 1/100th, that's 100th of a second that's opening. It's much faster. It's capturing much less light and much less motion. So where does that come into play? When you need more light, you try to slow that shutter speed down, but don't get it too slow, or else you're gonna get some motion blur. There are certain times where you will want motion blur. So that's where the creativity comes in, and that's why you want to know how to use it and be able to say, this is the result I want, so this is the settings I'm gonna put in. That's why I don't like using auto and I like using manual. So aperture. The aperture setting is how open or closed that hole is. And there's a few different factors when it comes to that. When you need more light, you open up that aperture more. You want less light, you close it down. That's the simple lighting factor. When you have less light, so when it's more closed down, you have more of your photo in focus. The other way around, the more open it is, the more light that's coming in, you have less in focus. And that's where you introduce some of that blurry background, the bokeh. So a lot of people love that. And that is a big factor on how expensive some lenses are, actually, because they have that extra step of aperture where it opens up a little farther and you get that nice bokeh. Light you get with that, more or less light, more or less in focus. And then I'll do a real quick explanation on how that plane of focus works. So this is a pretty lousy explanation, but let's just see how it goes. I've got my water bottle here. Let's say I want the label in focus. I want the whole front of the bottle in focus. This is our plane of focus, let's say, okay? This board is our plane of focus that the camera is gonna have in focus. And it's flat. This is what I'm explaining, is that you have a flat plane of focus. So if you want the front of this bottle, the whole thing in focus, you need to be up and down. Meaning your camera needs to be level, because if it's not, if it's tilted at all and you have a shallow depth of field, that's what's in focus. Meaning the only part of the bottle that will be visual on the front will be right about here. And then back here on the bottle will be in focus, if that makes sense. If this isn't making sense and I need to re-explain this in another video, let me know. But this is your plane of focus. This is the thickness at which you have focus. Right there, this part of the bottle will be in focus. You tilt it, you see what I mean? Now only, if you want the front in focus, only this part of the front, right here, is in focus. This back part will be in focus, and then none of the top, because this is your plane of focus. So you got my camera, I tilt it, that's what's in focus. See what I mean? And if it's a thicker field of focus, like this, here's my bottle, I got it in focus. If I tilt it, it's not as big a deal. So that's a little explanation, rough explanation on how maybe if you need an upward angle of this bottle, but it all has to be in focus, you need a deeper depth of field. You need a deeper plane of focus because it has to be thicker so that you can tilt it. If it's like this, you're not going to get much of the bottle in focus. You see what I mean? I don't know if that made sense, but those are the three things. I'll go through them really quick again. I've got ISO, that is artificial light. It's the sensitivity of your sensor on your camera. Shutter speed, that's just how long your shutter's open, so you can get light. More light, the longer it's open, less light, the shorter it's open, and then you're capturing all the motion that is going on while that shutter is open. Aperture is how open your camera is or how closed it is, which also affects your depth of field, which your depth of field is the field of focus in your photo. Your focus plane needs to be level or wider to get things in focus. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be glad to answer any, because I know that some of this might have been a little rough of an explanation. So let me know, please, if you have any questions on this. Have a great day, and thanks for watching. Hey, get out of my face.